all of you know the Marcus Corporation. It's one of those just household names. They have Marcus Theaters and also Marcus Hotel and Resorts. And Greg, you've run that company since 2008? The last 18 months have been very hard for the entertainment industry. So Greg, I want to thank you so much for being here today. Sir, would you like to come up and say a few words?
No, I'm wearing this because actually Corey, you blew my cover. I'm actually Agent BB. Because this is the safe house. Let's not forget where we are. So I got this disguise on right now, and you can't know, who I am. But I'm thrilled that you're all here because, we love having the press club be a part of the safe house and the newsroom pub, and it's great that you're all here. I don't know who said this too shall pass, but I'm certainly looking forward to it passing. Truthfully, it actually is passing. Things are getting better, but we're not done yet. Most of you know us quite well, but to quickly recap, as Corey said, we operate in two businesses, movie theaters and hotels and restaurants. That's our public side. I'm not here today to talk about our private side, but if you need a mattress, we got Verlo mattresses. We have the restaurants in the Third Ward. I got a shell for my brother and the gang down there. And our real estate company, Barrett Real Estate. The right restaurants, in case you're wondering, are Onesto, Blue Bat Kitchen, Smoke Shack, and Bombers. Now we got that off the table. But on the public side, we're the fourth largest film exhibitor in the United States with 1,091 screens in 88 locations in 17 states. And the studios are again releasing exciting films to the market. I saw Respect last night. If you follow me on Instagram, you would know that. If you don't, you should. Greg loves movies. And that's my Twitter too. So it's easy to remember. But Respect was a great movie. The music was fantastic. And tonight we opened Shang-Chi, the next Marvel movie, and I haven't seen it yet, but everyone who's seen it says it is fantastic. So worth seeing, absolutely. On the hotel side, we own or manage 19 hotels and resorts across the country. Actually, one across the street, the St. Kate. At least a few, the Pfister, the St. Kate, the Hilton Milwaukee City Center. And until recently, we were at 18 hotels. And the good news is the count went up, where that got us to 19, with our new one at the Hyatt Regency in Coralville, Iowa, home of the Hawkeyes, who are playing my Indiana Hoosiers this weekend. So I guess I'm torn. Today, I've got some prepared remarks. I'm not going to be too long. I've got people who signal me when I'm going to go too long. But I'm going to talk about three things: the state of our business and the pandemic's impact, what I see as our best way out of the pandemic, vaccines, and then a potential long-term pandemic impact we need to be aware of. And since I'm with a group of press people, that's my tease. I'm not going to tell you what that is yet. So the state of the business. The good news, headline, our business is recovering. Certainly, we've been impacted by the pandemic. Our businesses are based on people getting together, and a pandemic is based on people not getting together. And while we've got a ways to go to get back to where we are way ahead of where we were last year when we were pretty much closed for business. And that's what do we say? What a difference a year makes. And it's important to have perspective. And it's important for me to have perspective as the day-to-day challenges are facing us every day, and we're not out of it yet. But a year ago, we were closed. We had just started opening our resorts. This weekend, Labor Day, we'd opened the theaters really for the first time in 4 or 5, 6 months, five months. I lost track. It had been since March, so 5.5 months. So, but a year ago, we had announced our Q2 fiscal 2020 results. We had $30 million of negative cash flow. We were losing $10 million a month a year ago. This year, we announced just recently our Q2 2021 numbers, and our EBITDA was within $1 million of breaking even. That's a $30 million swing. And in June, for the last month, we actually were cash flow positive for the whole company. The hotels actually were cash flow positive for the whole quarter. And so with a number of properties reporting positive operating income. So the hotels have actually really seen an early positive swing, but the theaters as well. As the recovery continues, we're seeing a flight to quality. People are making careful decisions about where and how they spend their time. They want to get out of their homes, be part of the world again. But there's a higher level of discernment, which bodes well for our company, our outstanding team, and the investments we've made in our theaters, hotels and restaurants is why our businesses continue to outperform our peers, which they do. I do want to take a minute to thank all the people that have supported us throughout all this. Our teams have worked tirelessly to get us through this, and the level of caring exhibited by the community has really touched me. So many people have come up to me to tell me that they're thinking about us and rooting for us. Well, I wish they didn't have to come up to me and do that, to be honest. It speaks to I'm really glad they do, and it speaks to the level of impact a company like ours has. And speaking of thanks, I do want to speak to my thanks to the state of Wisconsin, and specifically the Evers administration. They've had 2 rounds of financial support to the hospitality and theater business, and their help has been so badly needed. We've lost hundreds of millions of dollars through no fault of our own, so any and all help is needed. But the administration views this as an investment. It's an investment in industries that are catalytic drivers, catalytic economic drivers. Hospitality is a known economic driver. When people come to stay in a hotel, they don't just lock themselves in their room, most often. They actually go out. They have transportation needs. They go out to restaurants. All those employees need to spend money within our community. So it's got a multiplier effect. Theaters as well. Think about it. You don't just go out to a movie. Generally, you go and you have dinner. You might go shopping. It has been measured. They just recently announced it. It's $5 for every dollar that's spent in a theater is spent around the theater. The jobs are 2.6 times that are created. So these are economic businesses that are anchors that drive further stuff. So it's an investment. So how do we get out of this? Because we're still dealing with this pandemic. I believe the way out is vaccination. We got off to a strong start in Wisconsin. It was great, but we hit a wall. You know, we're a little over 50% as a community, and it really hasn't moved very much. The progress has been slow, and our underserved communities remain vulnerable. And while we must continue to address the questions and concerns of the unvaccinated, I am convinced that the most progress will come through vaccine requirements. Whether those are requirements to work or to gain access to things like Summerfest or other things people want to do, I applaud the hospital systems for what they've done along with other key employers. That is what's going to get us to the other side of this. And then finally, my last thing I want to talk about, what I teased, what is something that's really got me concerned? It's a topic called social trust. There was a seminal book 20 years ago that's discussed. It's called Bowling Alone. Some of you may have read it. It's a simple concept, social trust, with far-reaching impact. Essentially, do we trust other members of our communities? When we disagree with others, if we think we are still working toward a common goal, we have social trust. We don't always have to agree. We can disagree. But we have to think that we're not out to take advantage of one another, that we can trust that we will hold to our word. Communities with high degrees of social trust perform better on economic metrics, health metrics, crime metrics, academic performance, and more. As I said, this is a far-reaching topic. So why do I bring it up? Well, as I said, at least for the last 2 decades prior to the pandemic, the level of social trust in America has been on the decline. They've studied it. And we've become more polarized. As we become more polarized, social trust has declined even further, and it may be a little bit of a negative feedback loop. Our bonds of social trust are fraying. One need look no further than the aforementioned challenges with vaccine uptake to see the problem. Whether it's from our central city residents or our outstate rural communities, one of the most cited reasons for declining the vaccine is that people don't trust. They don't trust the government, and thus they don't trust the vaccine, and it's impacting our health metrics. So the point being made that was made 20 years ago, that communities with higher degrees of social trust perform better on a health metric, is being proven right now. All the data shows hospitalizations would be reduced substantially if our population were more vaccinated. And my concern goes further. They say the events like the pandemic can accelerate trends. And as I said, the bonds are fraying, and I see a problem on the horizon. The pandemic is further isolating us from each other. Now we all want to work remotely at home. We're going to watch all of our entertainment from our couch, and we engage in all of our social discourse virtually on social media. Rather than come together, we are increasing our isolation. Further isolation will not repair our bonds of social trust. It will simply wear them away further. We need to be together.
amongst each other, seeing each other face to face, so we realize that even when we disagree, we can trust each other. It's much harder. Trust me, I'm on social media. I see it's much harder. It's very easy to lob something over when they're not standing in front of somebody. When you're talking to somebody, you can see that you can trust one another. Isolating is a bad idea and will only accelerate the trends that are impacting our country negatively today. I think we need to be cognizant of these trends so that we can be thoughtful as a community about what we are doing, because I know if I told you that we can do better with health, economic growth, crime, and academic performance, we'd be all over it. And not only do we need to not isolate further, we need to look for more opportunities to come together. I think from that, good things can follow. And with that, I say thank you. Those are my prepared remarks, and bring it on. Let's take some questions. And when I say bring it on, I just mean throw softballs at me. Go ahead.
Well, Greg, you just said yourself that you see the best way out of this, vaccines and vaccine requirements. As a company, are you going to require vaccination or proof of vaccination at your theaters or your other properties? And if you made that decision, can you get into how you went about doing that?
We haven't made that decision yet, but I will tell you at our corporate office, we actually said, well, should we? And then you know what we found out? 92% of our people in our office are vaccinated. How about that? So we didn't need to there. So on the property side we haven't made that decision. We're following what the industries are doing. We're seeing. So for example, we have a property in New York, and in New York is starting to require it. And so where it is required, we will do that, and we will follow what the industry does, because I do think it's important.
Okay, just a quick follow-up to that. I mean, you see venues like Summerfest requiring that. When do you think, what events would lead you to decide that on a mass scale for all of your properties, not in just those specific markets?
Again, it will have to be it'll be what the industry specifically do. We treat each business different based on its industry. And so, for example, hotels. So like I was wearing a mask today because we ask all of our people in our hotels, this is part of our hotel business, to wear a mask. And that's because the industry said you have to do that. Marriott and Hilton came out and said, okay, this is what we want. And so for us as a company, we've always said we do what the industry is doing.
One thing that I'm wondering about, you touched on social trust and the politics of the moment, and I'm curious, what has it been like to have to make business decisions about public health when it's been politicized as it has? And how has, the politicization of the pandemic affected your decision making?
Well, it's really hard. Let me start by saying that's a great question, because doesn't that buy me time to think about my answer? No. It's in a room full of press people, you all know. But I shouldn't have done that, because I'm going to need that later. I actually know the answer. I don't know the answer, but it's very hard. It's very challenging. We want to do the right thing. We're a company that wants to do the right thing, and it's not always clear what the right thing is to do. I follow like a zillion epidemiologists on Twitter, and I can tell you, the mask debate goes on within Twitter. What is the benefit or not? At the end of the day, I don't like that this is nuts that it's politicized, to be honest. It shouldn't be. There's so many other things that we can fight about politically. I won't list them so that you can then write here the things that Greg thinks should be political, but you know what they are. Really important issues in our country that our country is facing, that we've been talking about for years, that polarization, that lack of social trust is preventing us from actually taking on. To me, I sort of think this is sort of like hey, don't look over here at what's really important, that should have two sides to the debate. You can pick your issue, what should taxation be, for example? What is the right amount? I don't have to say what the right amount is, but we know that there's a spectrum. But let's not focus on the stuff that we need to get done. Let's focus on something that has absolutely no business being political. And yet it is. It's very frustrating.
I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about streaming services and the way people consume entertainment. Recently, I was ready to purchase tickets online to go see a new movie. It was Coda. And then I was scrolling through my streaming services. I have Apple TV, and there it was. I could stream it straight from my living room for free with my Apple TV app. So instead of buying tickets, I sat on my couch and watched a new movie. How detrimental is it when new films are released on streaming services to your bottom line, and how do you compete with that? What can the theater industry do as a whole to bring people back into theater seats?
Well, let me start by saying you made a mistake. You should have gone to the theater. And I am saying that jokingly, but the truth is that I haven't seen Coda, but I saw Nomadland in the theater, and my wife and I went with another couple, and when we went, the other couple didn't tell us they'd seen it on Hulu. It was on Hulu, and when they saw it in the theater, they said, "This is so much better in the theater." These are differentiated experiences. You know, I hate to say it, and I'm going to pick on the press a little bit. It was just sort of dumb when a room full of press people. But no one said I was a genius. But, I know, if it bleeds, it leads. You guys like a fight. And there's nothing like the cage match of theaters versus streaming. That sounds like whoa, what a great fight. They're going to take away our tradition. That's not the fight. I mean, it will be if you make it that, if you keep writing that. The fight is TV, linear TV against streaming. That is the substitute. There is no difference between watching, a cable channel that's got a schedule that shows what's going to be on at 7 and 8 o'clock on your 65-inch big screen than watching your streaming service on your fixed 65-inch big screen. Those are substitutable options. For the most part, theatrical is different. And I have to be honest, I had forgotten what it was like to go to a movie. I don't know if you've been to a movie lately. I won't pick on you and ask you that question. But if you haven't been to a movie, you should go back and you realize, oh yeah, my phone's not on. Nobody's bothering me. The screen, not even in the biggest screens, is enveloping. I don't care if you've got a 170-inch screen in your house. You're not going to top my 45-foot screen in my medium-sized theater. And the sound takes you in. And so it's that whole isolating experience. It is a differentiated experience, and so you're missing something. Now, it's still a good question. What is it? Does it impact us? Yes, it does impact us because look, I can't argue with the fact that you were on your service and you saw it and said, well, I don't have to go to the theater. There needs to be a period of exclusivity. This has the model for Hollywood is long-standing. It's called windows. They created periods of exclusivity for each way of the way you used to do it is you would see it in a theater, and then you would watch it, maybe you'd rent it, and then you'd watch it on HBO, your pay service, and then you'd watch it on, broadcast TV. And each time you essentially paid for it. What a great model. As they collapse all those, and there's economic reasons to do so that they're bumping into, they have to be very careful about not going too far. The pendulum can swing to the extreme. Anyone who says, well, gee, look at the music business. Yeah, let's look at the music business. They're back to where they were 20 years ago. I don't think that anybody wants the music business for the theater business. The economics of the industry don't make sense. And as they replace their linear TV revenues with streaming revenues, that's actually a much bigger business than the theatrical business. I think it's important for them to keep those theatrical dollars coming in because those are per capita eyeballs. If you picked a movie that was being shown simultaneously, theaters and TV, if you put 4 people in the room, you probably took a hunk of change out of the guy who sold it to you because you didn't pay what you'd pay per ticket. The experience is different. And so for a premium experience, to create that period of exclusivity is important. I think that is where the industry is going to shake out again. Now, let's remember, we are in a very odd time. I don't think this is what the world is going to look like when we're done. It's not going back to what it was, but it isn't going to look like it looks today. And that, because right now, where people have their concerns and they haven't gotten back in the habit of going to the movies and doing the things that they were doing, they're starting to get there, but they're not there yet. Until they get there, the studios are using that and they're taking advantage of it to build up their streaming services because that is going to replace linear TV. There is no doubt about it. It will replace a lot of cable. And when it does that, there's only going to be few survivors. How many services can you have? You can't have all the ones they're offering. You could, but you'll be spending more on that than you were on cable. And so think about it like this. If you spend $100 a month now on your entertainment content, you're probably going to spend about that same, maybe a little bit less on streaming. Well, if they're going to just replace one for the other for their TV, they shouldn't give up the theatrical piece of that too. So that's a long-winded answer. I hope it answered your question.
So I think we can all agree that one of the things that we all missed during the pandemic was the act of going somewhere for an experience to get together with other people. And I'm curious, you mentioned we're not going to be the same on the other side of this. You all made some changes to your business in terms of being able to rent out a whole theater for $100 and things like that to be able to create those experiences during the pandemic. What business changes that you all made to that experience do you think will continue on as we emerge from the pandemic? And what do you think will be, dinosaurs?
Sure. Let me be clear. I didn't say we weren't going to be the same. We're going to be exactly the same. We won't get back to exactly where we got to. I think substantially, though, we're going to get back to a lot of where we were. People are people. Look at this. How many people are happy to be here together amongst everybody? We want to be amongst people. That's sort of the human nature. In fact, we fight it in a way when we say, oh, we're going to go isolate ourselves. It's sort of, it's a little counterintuitive. Although, maybe we don't want to isolate ourselves, we want to silo ourselves. That's not cool. I don't think it's a good idea to silo ourselves. That's what happens in social media. If we're going to just now move home, we're just siloing ourselves in our home, as opposed to going to the office, where I think we can all think of people in our office who maybe think differently than we do, and yet we're friends with them. But if we're not going to see them anymore, we're just going to be, we shouldn't silo ourselves. So we're not going to get exactly back to where we're at. But going back to your question on the theater side, what will be different? So the $100 for an auditorium, that does not work every day of the week going forward. But maybe on a Wednesday, that might actually work, so that you might see pieces of that. I think the most significant change you will see will be the adoption of technology, the online ordering, the online buying of your tickets. That makes us more efficient, and it's really a great customer. It's great for the customer. They don't have to wait in line. They can order stuff on their phone. I think those technological advancements are going to be what we see permanently that will enhance the experience and not really detract from it.
Okay, along with the COVID pandemic, another major issue, not just for hospitality, but really anywhere, is the labor shortage. I would like to ask you how you are dealing with that, and if there are any kind of incentives or pay increases that Marcus Corporation has been doing to try to attract more employees, or if there are instances where you've simply had to cut services, such as the frequency of room cleanings, or maybe you have certain percentage of a hotel rooms closed off right now just because of the lack of good help.
We don't have any rooms closed off, but yes, we're dealing with it just like everybody else, and it's a mixture of things. You find out how you can do things more efficiently. Order online in a theater. If you order online, you're not taking somebody's time at a concession stand to take your order. Not cleaning the rooms as frequently. It started off again really more as a health issue. People didn't want anyone coming in their room, but now it's been something that we have to deal with. We can't clean the room as frequently. Although you can request it if you want it cleaned. We've had to increase pay. We've had to do all the things to react to what's going on in the market. What I don't know, what none of us know. Again, we're in this odd time. I don't know how many people just took summer vacation. I mean, literally, I do think there's a group of people who said, this is a total guess, that said, you know what, it's been a rough year. I get back to work after we get back into the fall. So I think there's a piece of that. Look at our savings rates are at our highest they've been in years. I think that's a known fact. That allows people some flexibility as well about when they want to go back to work. And so I think that we'll look for efficiency. We'll look for things that we figure out how we can make do with less. We will have to. We do see in some of the restaurants sometimes we can't seat everybody just because some people will seat everybody and then give bad service. We don't want to do that. We only seat for where we can take care of the people. And you wouldn't notice it. It's on the margins, but the margins are where we make our money.
So let's go back to the beginning of the pandemic, March 2020. Everything was sort of shutting down. I want to go back into your head and what were you thinking at that time? And fast forward to now, and some of the lessons, some of the positive things that you've pulled from that experience through the last year and a half, and some of the things that you did that you will continue doing moving forward. Maybe some things you wouldn't have learned without the pandemic.
Well, March of 2020, not printable. Or recordable, or playable on some whatever area of the pressure involved. The words that came out of my mouth were, "Oh yeah, it's not cool." It was terrifying. Because we had no idea. I mean, you're worried about your health, worried about your family's health. We're all worried about our associates' health. worried about our business. We're closed. We've never closed before. I mean, not like that. We were closed for months on end. What was going to become of our business? I mean, a business that, frankly, I took over in '08, so, 13 years ago. But I've been there for 30 years, 29 and a half or so almost 30. I don't want to overstate how long I've been there. My dad's 60 years. So to be in that position was terrifying, and yet, look, I knew that we'd done the things that we never thought of. Again, nobody imagines that, but yet, Doug Nice, our CFO, is sitting here with me today. Doug manages our balance sheet. We, as a company, have always been very careful with trying not to put too much debt on our balance sheet, and so our obligations were not as extreme as others, and so yes, we still have to manage around that, but it allowed us to say, okay, we will get to the other side of this, whenever that is, because we know things can happen. As I said, couldn't have imagined it like that. And yet, even knowing all that, how do you not worry? So now you fast forward a year, what are the lessons we've learned? Well, I've learned like how great our people are, how resilient they can be, what they can go through. Because think about we've been open in the middle of a pandemic. We've been taking care of guests who want to be out. Our hotels this summer have been very, the leisure traveler is out. You want to travel, they're out. That's the business traveler, not yet. They're starting to come back, but they're not back yet. But we've been able to see how resilient our teams are has been unbelievably rewarding, and to see what we can do with less people, because we have less people, and that was really, that to me was heartbreaking to have to. I think we did a good job of when we had to let people go. I mean, we went from at our peak of nearly 10,000 to about 4,000 or 5,000 employees. Think of how many people we had to let go. I mean, we're about people. We're about community. This is what we do, and so that was heartbreaking. We did the best we could. We took care of people. We gave severance to people who've been, to people at the hourly level. I mean, we did as much as we could do, and now we're still working our way through it. But a year later, we're in a much better place, and I suspect a year from now, we'll be in an even better place.
One thing that I'm wondering about, we've gone through the last 6 months or so a little bit of a back and forth in terms of people's comfort with the pandemic, in terms of, initially getting CDC guidance that vaccinated people could rip their masks off, and then saying, no, the Delta variant, we should probably keep them on a little bit longer, and things like that. Curious how that's played out in your businesses and what you've seen in response to that in recent months.
Yeah, well, yeah, we've seen it. I would tell you that what we've seen, what we're seeing, what we are seeing, because it's current right now, is we saw. Look at it. There was nobody coming, and there was always, actually, interesting, always a certain amount of people who still were ready to come, no matter what, and that was, that's good. We're there to serve them if they want to be there. And then as things got better, and as vaccines came along, people really started to go. And as I said, the leisure traveler, boom, they just really, people wanted to get out of their houses and go and do something and be out. And our restaurants, just crazy. People wanted to get out and eat. So now we've got the Delta variant, and it's getting people concerned, yet maybe not as much as you'd think. I can't tell you the exact numbers. There's a little bit of softening on the margins, but yet, we've seen some cancellations, but not like we saw like a year ago, where everybody's like, "Hi, can I cancel anything I want to do for the next 6 months?" I mean, we're not seeing as much, and so I think people they want to be careful. There's a lot of people who are vaccinated are saying, "Look, I can go about my life if I'm careful about it," and because here's the message, right? If you're vaccinated, you don't want to get this, but I think, what is it? You have a 10 times less chance of being hospitalized than if you're unvaccinated. You have like a 28 times, I don't know what the exact number is, less chance of actually succumbing to the illness. I mean, so you can actually go about your life, and people are taking advantage of that and doing that. So,
kind of a follow-up to that. When I speak with some, the corporate travel might not be coming back as soon as maybe operators had hoped and expected toward the beginning of the year. I think a lot of that has to do with Delta variant. you know, it's September now, and typically, you know, in the Milwaukee market, leisure travel is slowing down. We might see some more of that because, you know, Summerfest is going on in September. But, you know, with that said, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the outlook for the Milwaukee hotel market going into the fall and the winter months, especially with, you know, some uncertainties that are still out there. How do you think the hotels are going to do?
Well, you're generally right, but we do have some really good things coming in the Milwaukee market, right? We've got the Ryder Cup, we've got Summerfest, we've got the Ryder Cup, we've got the Brewers. I don't want to say that out loud. I want to whisper that. Oh my gosh, right? You can't. I'm superstitious like all the Brewers people are, but hope we got some postseason coming. The question is, how long will that be? So there's good things. There will be business travel is not going to come back to where it was, but we're seeing business travel. We're seeing it happen. There's still weddings. I don't know about you. I've gone to 2 weddings in the last 2 weeks. People are getting married like crazy. So there's still things going on into the fall. Winter will be quiet. Winter around here is pretty quiet anyway. I mean, let's not. You know, it is even in good times. So I can't tell you exactly. I don't know what's going to happen. None of us know. The booking windows are very short, and if things get worse, it won't be so good. And if things get better, I think you'll see more people be out and about. Business does want. There are certain groups that do want to get out and travel now. You know, there are salespeople who are saying, "I got to go see my customers." They just need their customers to be in their office. So it goes back to get into your office if you can. Get people vaccinated. Get into the office, because we shouldn't be isolating. Because it's not just about business. It's about our community. It's about not isolating yourself in your house. If I'm going to stay on point here.
On the same vaccine theme, just this week we saw Milwaukee's largest performing arts organizations announcing that they will require proof of vaccination or a negative COVID-19 test 72 hours before attending an indoor performance this season. Do you think this is a precursor to what we might see when it comes to movie theaters and people going back to the movie theater seats?
I don't know what the answer is to that. I'm hoping that people will get vaccinated fast enough that it's not really an issue. Because remember, if everybody gets vaccinated, you're not going to have a requirement. We won't have such a problem. So I'm hoping that happens fast.
I'm wondering about, you know, plans that you had for your business prior to the pandemic and kind of where those stand. One thing that comes to mind in particular is you all were talking about developing a site overlooking the Milwaukee River into a cinema and office space and other stuff. And I'm wondering where that plan sits and if the pandemic affected that.
Well, we still own the land, but yeah, the pandemic affected. We're not in a position right now to actually even comment on that kind of stuff, just because we're not. We got to get through today and tomorrow. But we're still looking forward to getting to the point. We will get back to the point of making those decisions. We just aren't there now.
Well, other developers are certainly busy in the Milwaukee.
I want to make one point though. We made an investment we own the land. We believe in Milwaukee. We still believe in Milwaukee. We made an investment, and we have substantial investments. If we sold that land, you know, we have substantial investments. So we believe in Milwaukee, and that's why we've always continued to invest here.
So other hotel developers are certainly busy in the Milwaukee area. You've got one proposed by women in the 3rd Ward. You've got one for potentially the Journal Square site. One that seems to be construction imminent at the Bucks Deer District. The timing is curious. You know, when I talk to developers, they say, you know, 18, 24 months. They're hoping the market's recovered. But for the existing hotels that already had to weather the storm, so to speak, during COVID, I just wanted to get your thoughts on what the potential impacts of all these new hotel rooms opening up, and whether that's going to give the existing hotels a chance to recover, or you know, what that's going to do to the market overall if they come to fruition.
You know, I'm not going to predict the market, because you can look at hotel rooms, and then you can look at all the great things that are happening that are driving people to want to be in Milwaukee. You know, I talked about this. I've talked about it publicly before. You know, why would you support building an arena? You know, why would you support that? Because the 5-star Forum. Well, because what's the price of getting your name, Milwaukee, in the paper, around the world, on TV, around the world, every day, months on end, and oh yeah, you're the champions. I mean, there is value, huge marketing value to that. It's the old joke, you know, half my marketing works, I just don't know which half, right? But it's working, and so it's driving people here. You know, why are we investing in our convention center? We are because it's a catalytic economic driver that will bring economic benefits that support hotel rooms. But yet I don't know, I can't tell you when too much is too much. What I can tell you about is our business. Isn't that, I sound like a politician, right? I can't tell you this, but what I can tell you, right? What I can tell you is that, is that we have special properties. The Pfister is a special property. The St. Kate is a special property. The Hilton connected to the convention center is a special property, and that's going to make us competitive with whatever comes here.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about your businesses then, especially the ones downtown, the hotels. You know how much you were expecting before the pandemic hit. That's hard to predict, and you know how much that cut into your business and continues to cut into your business. How long before those hotels are going to be on firm ground again? How long of a recovery period would that be?
Look, I don't know how to define even firm ground. Again, remember, we don't. Firm ground for someone else is different than for us. You know, we don't have as the debt. We have debt, but not as much debt. For us, I think a full recovery is going to take till 2024. But like this summer, we were already back this summer to 2019 numbers. So in a way, you've seen some recovery. But now we're not going to see as much of a recovery as we go into the fall and into the winter because we're not going to have the business travel as much. And so, but we're already seeing, like, if you go into a hotel, you can see who's there just by looking at the manifest, the stuff in the elevators and the lobbies. You can see who's there and see, I see business travel. The other day I was in there and I was in the elevator with someone. I saw, NCDA, and I said, I don't know who it is, but it's a national association, NA. That's business travel. That's great. And because what's happening, right? Here's what's going to happen. First thing that's going to happen is the leisure customer comes back, and the group leisure, the weddings, that kind of stuff. And then what happens is the salespeople say, I got to call on my customers, because what happens is the salesperson walks into his or her boss's office and says, boss, we just lost the XYZ account. The boss says, why? Because our competitor showed up and actually called on them, didn't just do the call on Zoom. And so the salespeople get out. They know that they have to, because they know that it's different being in person. And then, the conferences start happening again. And then maybe they're going to be lower attended because they said, well, we used to send 4, but we're only going to send 2. And so this year they only send 2. And by the way, it takes some time to plan ahead. They don't just throw a conference together overnight. And then the next year, 2023, the person who walks into the boss's office says, I know I didn't go last year, but I worked so hard. It's my reward to go to Milwaukee this year. And so they come to Milwaukee, they increase the size. And by the way, conferences, they're big networking things, looking for your next job, right? And so you can't network and look for your next job on Zoom, very hard. And so that need to be together is going to drive that business. The only business that I think that you have to wonder about is if I have a satellite office somewhere, I'm going internally. If I used to go 4 times a year, maybe I only go 2. I still need to go see people. People want to see me, they want to shake my hand, but I maybe don't need to go as often. But I think, as people are more dispersed, because we are going to see some of that, there will be a need for them to get together. And so that will replace that. And so I think that will replace that, anything we lose there. And as the population ages and retires, you'll see more leisure travel, and that will make up for some of that goes away. But I think it's a multi-year process.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, especially in terms of business travel not coming back as much, are there new groups of travelers that you all are going after, or different ways that you are going about trying to entice people onto your properties to fill up rooms to make up for the people who aren't coming?
No, it's the same business of selling and marketing. We market and we sell, and that's what we do. And to whoever's out there. So if we know the consumer leisure's out, the consumer travelers out there, we're out marketing to that segment to get them to come in. And so we target our marketing toward them. We target our office toward them, and I guess you find the bait that the fish likes, and we drop it in the water.
So the city of Milwaukee may soon have a new mayor. What advice would you give the new leader of Brew City? That's if Mayor Barrett's nomination is approved for the ambassador of Luxembourg. What kind of advice would you give the new leader?
I would say, get everybody in a room, develop your vision for what you want the city to be, have actionable items that you can tick off, tell everybody, say, I'm committing to get this stuff done, and you might not get everything done, but have that vision in that list so that we're all working, and get consensus, so we're all working toward that same goal. Harness the power of everybody.
Back to the hotel development front. You mentioned earlier the expansion of the Wisconsin Center is finally happening. Construction work is underway. There's that vacant site to the south at Bell Phillips in Wisconsin. And I know your company and at least one other have, in the past, in a totally different world, submitted proposals to the city to develop a large number of hotel rooms there. Just wondering, given the current market conditions, but then on the flip side, the fact that WCD expansion is finally happening, is there an appetite for hotel development there in the coming next 1 or 2 years? And are you still interested in doing something there?
I want Marty to just get the convention center built right now. I think that's what we're focused on right this minute, is getting it done. Look, I don't think anything is going to get built without a substantial subsidy. So I don't think we need to address that right this second. Our subsidies are focused on getting the convention center built, which needs to be subsidized. Let's talk about what the convention center is. People, it's hard in a way. People say, "Oh, convention center, doesn't mean anything to me. I never go there." Because for the most part, except for the Van Gogh exhibit, there you go, Mike, I'm doing that for you. Except for Van Gogh, a lot of times they don't have reason to go to our convention center facilities. The convention center business is an export business. So if I told you that I've got this great business that I could do, I'm going to need some money for it, but here's what we're going to do. We're going to create a lot of jobs. People are going to come send their money for the widgets that I'm going to make here at Milwaukee, and then we're going to send those widgets to them. They're never even going to come here. They're not going to drain our resources. They're just going to send us their money. And we're going to have a profit, and we'll be beneficial to our community. You'd say, how can I make that happen? That's what a convention center is. It is an export business. We are exporting our environment. And I said not environment like climate environment. The quality of life in Milwaukee. We're exporting knowledge. We're exporting networking opportunities. So people can come here, be in our space. They're going to come bring their money. They're going to come meet other people, that networking thing. They're going to come enjoy our lakefront and our restaurants and our hotels. They're going to bring all their money here. They're going to leave their money behind, and then they're going to go back home again and not drain our resources. That's an export business. That's a great business. I don't know the last time any of us went into many of the major manufacturers and toured their facilities. We don't, but we know they're important. When was the last time someone went and looked at the Harley line? Nobody does, but it's important, right? That's what the convention center is. And so that's why we have to support it, and that's what we're focused on.
So you've mentioned a few different times, talking about working in the office and its importance to you to have people collaborative in that way. What have you all, learned that you've been able to do better during the pandemic, or learnings about operating a workforce, not sitting in a room together?
Well, I've learned you can do it, but I don't think it's optimal. That's the thing I've learned. If anything, it's an appreciation for being together. And what comes from being together, you can't, what are we going to schedule serendipity for 3 o'clock on Wednesday? It's not going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. I have a hard time with saying, well, we'll be in the office a few days a week. Now, I know that, you can be more flexible. What it does allow for is flexibility, which I love. Someone says, you know what? I take care of my kids today. Can I do the meeting from home? Sure. You can do that. We can take care of our employees in a way that's very flexible and works within their lives. But I think it's very hard. Can you imagine the Packer offensive line saying, guess what? Here's my new game plan. We play on Sundays. Monday we're off. Tuesdays through Thursdays we're going to watch film at home. And we'll be in for walkthroughs on Friday. That team doesn't win. The team that wins is the team that's together. And it's generating ideas together and thoughts together and walking down through the hallways and talking to one another. And again, not isolating ourselves socially. There's so many benefits to being together. And yet we have the technology to be flexible, and that's a good thing.
I want to go back to talking about movies, because I absolutely love movies. I'm interested to see if people's tastes in movies are changing during the pandemic and what they're actually going to the theater for. Recently, Top Gun got delayed being released, Mission Impossible, but Candyman was in theaters recently and brought in $22 million nationwide. It's a thriller movie. Typically, on a normal year, would that be a movie someone would go to the theater for? Are they looking for more of a thrill in that theater setting?
I don't think we've seen changed tastes yet. I think people would like some lighter stuff, but it's not. Because remember, the movies we're seeing now were made 2 years ago. Horror, talking to Candyman, horror's been a very reliable genre and has been generating business for us pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. But I think that people, but most of what we're seeing now was what the tastes were a few years ago. Well, let's see what happens a few years from now. But look at Free Guy. I don't know if you saw it. A great movie. If you haven't seen Free Guy, go see it. Really fun, creative, different, and uplifting, and it's enjoyable. And I think people want light stuff. I do think, and yet, Quiet Place 2 did great, loved it. Fast 9, everyone likes a Fast and Furious movie, so we'll see what happens. I don't know yet the answer to the question.
And then I think this is my last question, is what's the best thing in theaters right now? What is the best movie we can go see?
Well, tonight you can go see Shang-Chi. I've told that. You asking me, which is my favorite child? No, I'm not going to tell you that. Go see them all. They're all great. Shang-Chi, actually, 91% Rotten Tomatoes. It's supposed to be great. Free Guy, I saw it. It was great. Respect, saw it last night. It was wonderful. I'd go. There's your top 3 right there. Go see those.
Sorry to keep asking about hotels. I actually love movies as well. I've been to 2 this summer. Went to the Marcus Movie Tavern to see the new Saw movie, and then in Menominee Falls I saw Fast 9. They were both my wife's choices, to be clear.
I will say my favorite line in Fast 9 was where Ty Diggs, is that the actor? I think, and he looks at the other characters and he says, we've done all these missions all these years, never a scratch on us. And I thought, okay, the guy's making the movie, get the joke.
They're self-aware at that point.
Exactly.
You can't take a car into space like that.
Yeah. But it allowed you to take a car into space because they had just said, this is nuts.
Yeah, exactly. So I just wanted to get a more of a general sense maybe at this point, your outlook on your downtown Milwaukee hotel portfolio. Do you ever have plans to maybe expand, do any kind of remodeling or significant reinvestments in the hotels if any of them are needed, or looking to maybe sell off any of the properties?
The answer to all of your questions are yes. Look, we will always invest in our properties. We always do. Look at the St. Kate. Frankly, we finished that about 16 seconds before the pandemic hit, unfortunately. But that is a special hotel. It really, I think it's tied with the Pfister for the best hotel in Milwaukee. It really is. It's spectacular. If the Pfister is the Mercedes S-Class, that's the Tesla. It is unique. It's provocative. It puts art up that forces you to think. It's on the cutting edge of what people want. They want experiential travel. We take great care of people, just like the Pfister. That's how I'll tell you the most amazing thing about the St. Kate. I'll tell you. So we watch TripAdvisor. We're number 2 on TripAdvisor right now. So we're very happy about how we performed. And I thought I'd go on and read, the art's so cool, the building's so amazing. And you know what I read? And I was like, I'm an idiot. I should know this anyway. They took such great care of us. We felt so good. Your staff was so nice, because at the end of the day, that's what it's about. And so we invest in our people. People are our most important asset. We invest actually in the physical assets because you have to keep them up. The Pfister, they will all get investment. Could we sell something? Yeah, we could sell assets too. We look at our portfolio all the time. We make decisions about investments, about what makes the most sense, where are we going to put, because you got to keep investing in them, to your point, to keep them fresh. And so I will make no predictions for you. I can't tell you what we're going to do. I don't know. Right now we haven't made no decision. Right now we're just trying to get through today.
So kind of a lighter question. I know you're a big piano player. If you could play with or for anyone in the world, who would that be?
Wow. That's a good question. I'm trying to think now. I'll tell you, I'm not sure who. I'll tell you, I had the most amazingly cool experience. I'll share an experience with you that was really amazing. I'm not sure I could top it. One of the things I'm involved with is I'm on the board of Jazz at Lincoln Center in New York. And it's a long story about my bass player here, John Price, was very good friends with Wynton Marsalis, world-renowned trumpet player. And so one day I'm at the board meeting, and they will bring in people to play for the board meeting. Who played at this meeting? John Batiste played at this board meeting, right? This beautiful grand piano in the middle of the boardroom. And after the meeting, I'm talking to Wynton, and he says, "You want to play a tune?" Because he knows I play the piano. I'm thinking, no, I don't. I'm like, yeah, okay, why not? And we played a tune, and I'll never forget sitting at that piano and looking at the other side and seeing the bell of that horn and thinking, that's Wynton Marsalis playing with me. That was insane. Now, he threw me a bone. I was very happy that he was kind enough to even let me do it. But it was very cool. But you know what? Actually, I'll tell you. You know who I like playing with? The coolest thing about being involved in music in this community is the community of musicians. And I hadn't been involved originally with them, and I wasn't looking for a new set of friends, and I found the greatest group of people to be involved with, and frankly, and we're playing an idiom that I literally could pound my hands on the piano, no one would know if I blew it. I mean, it would be, if you finish good and start good, nobody knows. It's jazz. But, you know, but so I'm playing for the other musicians and with my friends, and they're great people, and that's who I want to play with, frankly, my friends. That's all I care about.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, Sarah, and Alex. It's time for audience questions. You ready?
Throw me to the wolves,
All right.
okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
Early on, your 3 points, you got a fair point about trust. The question would be, what can corporate America, but especially your corporation, do to increase trust in our society? Because the diagnosis is right on.
Well, as I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I'm sorry that I have to even think that way, but I think first of all, it is getting back to the office and stressing the importance of it, not just for the sake of our own business. And yet again, sort of a philosophy we have at the Marcus Corporation was a healthy community is what we need for it to have a healthy business. If our communities are not healthy, our businesses are not going to be healthy. And so, for the greater good of the community, we need to be together. And so, I would say to corporate America, don't be so quick you have to react to what your associates, your employees want, but try to be convincing about the importance of us getting together and being in the office and working together, and look for opportunities, if you're not going to, look for opportunities to be together more so that we can face one another and talk to one another and realize that even though we disagree, we might still have the same goals.
Carl? Go ahead.
Carl, you're my friend. Let's take the easy one, the GMC. So we formed a search committee. It's being led by great people, Greg Wesley, Christy Garcia-Thomas, and Marion Stanek. And so we've retained a search firm, Egon Zender, and we are just in the process. The first thing we needed to do was say, okay, what are we going to be when we grow up? We want to, Julia's been a great asset to our community for 20 years, and she's done wonderful things. But what do we think the next 10 or 20 are going to look like, and what is the right leader for that, and where does the GMC fit into that equation? And so that's the first step, is to define that, and then based on that direction, we'll be looking for candidates, and we will then go from there. So we're just in the process right now of doing that, and the candidate selection and is moving forward after that. We're at early stages. My advice for the new mayor, pretty much what I said before, let's get a vision. Be clear about your vision. Tell everybody what you want to accomplish. And let people know it's hard and we may not get it all done. Be honest with people. Be straightforward. Life's about expectations. Manage people's expectations. Don't overpromise, don't underpromise. Maybe a little underpromise and overdeliver, but have a vision. Say, here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to get done. We've got to fix the challenges in our inner city, in our underserved communities. I mean, there are people who seem to have been awakened, and it's a good thing. Like, wow, in the last few years. But these problems have been going on for a long time. If you've been a citizen in our community, you know that. And so we've got to address and correct some of those. I do think I think education is really important. But education is not going to get fixed overnight. It's a generation. It took generations to get it to where it is. It's going to take time to fix it. And so we need to take on the long-term stuff, and we need some quick wins. I'd say get yourself some quick wins, too. Pick some stuff that you can have some success with, and that will help build momentum.
And who's your favorite candidate?
Carl Miller.
Anyone else have questions? No? All right. Again, thank you to our panel of journalists. Thank you, everyone, for coming. And thank you so much, Greg, for being here.
BB. Shh.
Oh, Agent BB, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
Oh, I forgot. Thank you to our sponsors. And we've got more events coming up September 16th. We've got Peter Fagan. And on the 22nd, we have Cavalier Johnson, who is going to probably be one of the mayoral candidates. Hasn't announced yet, but oh, yes. Greg, you like him? No, we can't. Thank you, guys.